Hi. It's your favorite time of the day with Pearl. It's good to have you here. Before we begin, take a breath. You don't need to be in a rush right now. You don't need to have everything figured out. This is just a quiet space to pause and reflect. Not to be convinced, not to be pushed, just to listen. Today, we're talking about faith, not as a religious idea, but as a way of living, a way of responding to life when certainty isn't available. So wherever you are, walking, resting, or just sitting with your thoughts, let this be a moment of stillness. Let's begin. Faith is not just a religious idea. It's not a belief system you agree with. It's not something you carry only in your mind. Faith is a spiritual principle, a way of living that brings divine realities into this physical world. And that distinction matters because many people think faith is passive, something you hold quietly, something private, something that comforts you emotionally. But faith, real faith, is active. It moves, it speaks, it responds. Faith calls things that are not as though they were, not because you are pretending, not because you are ignoring reality, but because you are aligning with a higher one. Faith is acting on God's word, not agreeing with it, not admiring it, not quoting it occasionally, acting on it. And that's where faith begins to feel uncomfortable, because action exposes what you truly believe. It's easy to say you believe something when nothing is required of you, but faith becomes real when it asks you to move before circumstances change, before feelings settle, before clarity arrives. Faith is doing what the word says, regardless of how you feel. And that goes against how most of us were taught to live. We were taught to move when we feel confident, to act when the conditions are right, to speak when the outcome is guaranteed. Faith doesn't wait for those things. Faith acts first, not because it is careless, but because it trusts a different authority. Faith does not deny circumstances. It simply refuses to let them be final. And that's a subtle but powerful shift. When you live by faith, you stop asking, "What do I see?" and you begin asking, "What has God said?" Because faith responds to God's word, not to pressure, fear, or appearances. And this is where many people struggle, because feelings are loud, circumstances are convincing, fear often sounds practical. Faith sounds quiet by comparison. It doesn't shout, it doesn't argue, it doesn't force, it simply obeys. And obedience without guarantees can feel risky, but that is where faith actually works. Faith is not waiting until everything feels right. Faith is acting your believing. It's believing and then moving in agreement with that belief. Not after the fear disappears, not after the situation improves, but while everything still looks the same. Faith moves while your hands are still shaking. And when you begin to live this way, not occasionally, but consistently, something changes. You stop being ruled by what you see. You stop being controlled by how you feel. You stop postponing obedience until conditions improve. And that's when impossibility begins to lose its power. Jesus said something simple but very deep. He said that if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, You could speak to a mountain and it would move. Not big faith, not perfect faith, not dramatic faith, small faith. Because faith is not about size, it's about use. A mustard seed is small, but it is alive, and when planted, it grows. But a seed kept forever in the hand produces nothing. Faith that is never acted on remains theoretical. And maybe that's where some people are right now. They believe, but they don't act. They agree, but they don't respond. They hope, but they stay still. Not because they don't love God, but because they're waiting to feel ready. Faith does not wait for readiness. Faith creates momentum. When you act on God's word, you step into alignment with divine reality, even while you are still standing in the natural world. That's how faith makes the unseen seen. Not instantly, not magically, but faithfully. Over time, in obedience, in quiet consistency. And this kind of faith changes how you live. You begin to speak differently. You begin to choose differently. You begin to respond differently. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you are no longer intimidated by what used to stop you. Faith doesn't promise a life without obstacles. It promises authority in the presence of them. Faith doesn't remove the mountain immediately, but it teaches you how to speak to it. And speaking in faith is not shouting, it's alignment. It's saying what God says, even when your emotions disagree, even when your mind hesitates, even when the outcome isn't visible yet. This is where faith becomes a lifestyle, not something you turn on in emergencies, not something you visit occasionally, but something you live by. You wake up and choose alignment. You speak words that agree with truth. You take steps that match belief, not because you feel strong, but because you trust God's word more than your feelings. And that kind of faith grows, not because it is dramatic, but because it is practiced. If you're listening to this and thinking, I believe, but I'm tired, or I believe, but I am unsure, or I believe, but nothing has changed yet, that does not disqualify you. Faith is not the absence of uncertainty. It is choosing obedience in the presence of it. Even small acts of faith matter. Speaking life when you feel discouraged, resting when fear says panic, moving forward when everything tells you to wait in doubt. These things count. Faith doesn't always look powerful. Sometimes it looks ordinary. Sometimes it looks like consistency, like patience, like staying aligned when no one is clapping. And that's enough. So instead of asking yourself, do I have enough faith? Ask something simpler. Am I acting on what I already believe? Because faith lives there, in action, in obedience, in agreement with God's word. Sit with that, and when you're ready, take one step, not guided by fear, not driven by feelings, but aligned with truth. That's how faith works. Quietly, consistently, powerfully. And when you learn to live this way, nothing shall be impossible to you. As we close, you don't need to take everything with you. One thought is enough. One quiet shift is enough. Faith doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be impressive. It only needs to be lived, one step at a time. If something from this stayed with you, let it settle. There's no pressure to act immediately. Just notice what it invites you to do next and start from there. Thank you for being here, for giving yourself these few minutes. We'll meet again soon. Until then, remember, faith works.